Okay. Samach Dalet Amud Beis. We did a little bit, but start again from the second wide line. The Mishnah talked about if somebody said he was Mekadesh his daughter. First talked about Stam. He didn't say which daughter. Then the case was about he had two groups of daughters from two different wives. The older group, the younger group, and he said the older Gedola, and the Machlokes was, does it mean the oldest of Yossi, the absolute oldest, or does it mean anybody who could be called the oldest Mamish, or the older group, or the oldest of the second group? Only the youngest one is out of the question. That was Reb Meir. So, and then they said the same thing over again with the youngest. If someone said the younger one, the young, Ketana, does it mean the youngest, according to Yossi, only? Or anybody that might be younger than somebody else?
Than the oldest.
Only the oldest is out of the question, right? And the Gemara wants to know why do you have to have those cases for? In the case of the Gedola, that maybe he means a lot, a few. Since there are younger ones, someone might call one of the older ones the Gedola, even though she's not the oldest. But when you say the Ktana, you only mean the Ktana. You wouldn't call somebody Ktana just because it's somebody that is older than her. So Rashi says that
only one baby in the family.
You might think so, right? You might say that here says Ktana, but let's say the way we say the baby, this is my baby. You only say the baby for the youngest one. But the older one, it could be you'll say the older one, my big one, even if it's not biggest, as long as it's bigger than somebody else. Rashi says that it's a shavach, it's more praise when you're saying somebody's big, my big girl.
When a baby is born, now the big kid.
Oh, you're a big girl. You're a big girl.
A year and a half old. Oh,
you're the big girl. So
so that means that all of them except the youngest would need a get. Yes.
All of them besides the youngest, because
you said big, and any of them may be big except
right. That's what Meir says, right? But the more saying there's a sport to say that he only said that when he said big. Big could be anybody that's big, but maybe he's asking also that young is only the youngest. That you might think that you only call the baby one of them the young. So Mashmalan, that he says both ways. The one says it has a havamina. What I've listened expressed it so well, but you have to know it's only havamina. That the maskana is that you might call my baby, or whatever, not the word baby, but ktana, because they're younger than somebody else. Meir says you do have the suffix. You might have thought that if you're asking to Rabbi Yossi that you only call ktana to the youngest. Kamash Malan, that even over there also he says maybe you call somebody, and as long as they're not the oldest, let's call them younger than somebody else. And the opposite, if you only was in the case of the younger, that over there Rabbi Yossi says it's only the youngest. Well, come Rabbi Yossi for the same svara. Maybe over there, the small one, they only call the smallest. But maybe in the case of the bigger one, maybe he also is masking that you call a few of them bigger ones. They all could be called bigger than somebody else. That's why it's necessary to say both cases that they're consistent. Meir says anytime you might call them the big one, bigger than somebody else, and the Ketana you might call younger than somebody else. And Rabbi Yossi says in both cases, the big one means only the big one, and the small one means only the smallest one. The Gemara makes the machlokus over here. Yeah, Lememra, new Gemara. Lememra, the Rabbi Meir Sava Machis Inish Nafshel L'Speika, Rabbi Yossi Sava Machis Inish Nafshel L'Speika. The word Machis means that a person takes himself down. He puts himself down into a suffix. That the Gemara seems to say the Machlokes Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yossi is if a person puts himself into a suffix. So Rashi doesn't explain it, but Rashi earlier when this Gemara was quoted on the Nalef, Rashi explained it's not the regular case that we usually use this expression, but is a person going to get himself involved in sveikos? That means when a person says an expression that later on he might himself have forget what he meant. Would a person do that? Would a person talk in absolute terms? If Yossi says a person talks in absolute terms that he shouldn't make any problems for himself, that later on he might not remember what he meant. So when he says Gedola, he means the absolute Gedola. Ktana, absolute Ktana. But Meir says that a person says something, it doesn't take into consideration that it doesn't do the proportion, I might forget what I meant. So he might have included also all the possible things. He might have said Gedola and he meant not the oldest, he meant somebody else, and he didn't realize that later on he might forget. That's what Rashi seems to explain the suffix about Machis and Absolute Spekta. There might be a different way to explain it, but that's what Rashi seems to explain. According to the Tzad, that it means this Mishnah. Are we learning that it means that he knew at the time? The Gemara before the suffix, two ways how to learn the Gemara. The Mishnah is talking about Hukra L'Basof and Zarvu. that he forgot. When he said Gadol, he knew what he meant. And then later on he forgot. And now we're being done. Did he say something that he might forget? There's another way to learn the whole Mishnah that he didn't specify which one. He just said Gedola, and you figure out what that means. What is that? What is included in my word Gedola? What is the word in my word Katana? So that'll change a little bit the pshat of what does it mean, Mochas and Ishnaf. But so far, what does the Gemara say? Rabbi Meir is the one who says that a person does put himself on the Sfekas, and Rabbi Yossi does not. So therefore, according to Rabbi Yossi, it's absolute. Old Gedola means the absolute Gedola, Katana means the absolute Katana. Kasha, we find they hold the opposite opinions in a different case, the Tanan. Another other Pesach. If somebody made a neder, I'm making a neder, whatever it is, I'm not going to eat apples, whatever. I'm not spending apples on myself till Pesach. What does it mean? Asir Achiagia. It's Asir until Pesach starts. The beginning of Pesach. During Pesach, he's not allowed to eat apples. If he says Achi Pesach, I'm mastering myself until Pesach is going to be. So that extra word Achi so Asir Achi then it means he's also until after Pesach. Pesach is also included because it says it's still called Pesach. Pesach is being. So what if he says Ad Pnei Pesach? This Mishnah talks about three terms: Ad Pesach, Ad Shehei Pesach, Ad Pnei Pesach. In the English, I don't know how to say that. Till the face of Pesach. So what does that mean? Does it mean the beginning, or does it mean the end?
Ad Shehei Pesach would be until Pesach comes.
No, until Pesach is over. If he says one Pesach is Ad Pesach. This is what he said. This is Achi Pesach. This word Achi Pesach, the Mishnah explains it means until after Pesach is over. As long as Pesach is being, it's still called Achi. If he says Ala Pesach, it means till the beginning. If he says Achi Pesach, it means till the end. If he says Ad Pnei Pesach, that's not so clear already. So only till the beginning. If you till the end, and the Gemara thinks that it means the machlok is over here because there are two possibilities. It could mean the front end or it could mean the back end. And Rabbi Meir says that he doesn't go into Sfekas, he goes into only absolute things, so it's only going to be the beginning. And Rabbi Yossi says it takes into consideration the other possibilities also, or it's included in his words the broader possibility, and it means till the end. So that's a kasha. That's how the Gemara sees a kasha. They see the opposite. Rabbi Yossi is the one who says that he's broader and he's machas in ishla sveka. And Rabbi Meir is the one who says that he means the absolute. You have to switch it around. There's a mistake over there, and you have to switch around that one. Our Mishnah is the correct one, and that Mishnah is going to be switched around. That Rabbi Meir is the one who says till the end, Rabbi Yossi says till the beginning. But Tanya, this Vatanya is like Rashi says, B'nichusa. This is not a kasha. This is to support what we just finished saying, that you have to switch around that Mishnah in the Dorim. It's not cloud. Coaches Manu Kavua, V'omar Ad Pnei, Rabbi Meir Omar Shiyetze, Rabbi Yossi Omar Shiyagia. So it has the case we just said about Pnei, Ad Pnei. This is mamish the case we just spoke about Pnei. And here it says that Rameir is the one who says till the end, the verse the one who says till the beginning. So we see that the Mishnah over there was quoted wrong. You have to you have to change around these two opinions of Rav Meir and Rav Yossi. The words in between the set of here, a few words that we didn't have before. It says Kol Shezmanu Kavua. Kol Shezmanu Kavua. So Rashi says that that's coming to say that this whole question about the first end, the beginning end, or the tail end, that's only on a thing which is Manu Kavua. Manu Kavua means a set amount of time, like we're talking about Pesach. Pesach is 7 days.
This
is the rule. This is the rule. This is the klal. The klal is Kol Shezmanu Kavua v'Amar Ad Pnei, anything which has a set amount of time. And he said Ad Pnei. The Rameir says he means till the end. The verse says he means till the beginning. What does the word? What does set amount mean? So Rashi says that this whole machlokas is only when there's a set amount of the Meshach Hazman. How do you say? How long is this Pesach? Pesach is 7 days. Everyone knows Pesach is 7 days. And the two choices are the first end or the back end. Those are the two choices, machlokes, the beginning or the end. But if it would be something which doesn't have a standard set fixed amount of time, Rashi gives examples like seasons. He says here, if you say
the
winter, kamitz, katzir, batzir. So Rashi doesn't say winter, he says, harvesting. So then he says some people start harvesting earlier, some are later. So a person's not going to be so broad that he doesn't know when it's going to be finished. If it's an exact end, so then he might have meant the front end or the back end. But if he doesn't know how long this is going to take to say the back end, then nobody would say that he meant that. So that's why that it means the beginning, right? So that it was really not our sugya. So we can put that in parentheses a little bit.
But he's still using the same word Pnei.
Right. Even if he says Pnei HaKatzir, it surely means the beginning of the Katzir. It doesn't mean the end of the Katzir because Katzir is not so fixed. So that wasn't really the subject, but that's what the Mishnah says. But the Gemara did want to prove that when there's a question about the beginning or the end, that he put himself into the suffix mode also. So Rabbi Yossi is the one who says no, Rabbi Meir is the one who says yes, like our Mishnah, and the Mishnah of the Durham was quoted wrong and therefore fix it up. Okay, so we had a question about the Gedola, the Ketana, and our Mishnah is the correct version, that the Meir says he takes everything into consideration. I mean, he doesn't mind putting himself into Sveikus, and he means anybody who might be considered a Gedola, or if he said Ketana, anybody's a Ketana. Verse is very exact, very absolute. Gedola means the complete, absolute Gedola. Ketana means absolute Ketana. Amar Abaye. 2 lines up. Machlokis b'shtei kitei banos. The Mishnah talks about he had 2 sets of daughters with 2 different wives. He had an older group, a younger group. And then he talked about if the Gedola means the older group or does it mean the oldest of the lower group. And then so is Bishmo Karila. What if somebody only has one wife, and many children, 3 children from one wife, and he says Gedola, or he says Ketana? Is there also machlokas over there? But Meir says that sometimes Gedola means bigger than somebody else. Is he also going to say if someone has 3 children and he said Gedola, he might mean the middle one because she's Gedola, she's bigger than the smallest? And if he said Ketana, he might mean the middle one because she's smaller than the oldest. So he says no.
I don't understand. The emphasis of the Shema Kri, is that a
the words mean
question?
That no, that's part of his statement. If he says Gedola, Gedola means Gedola, and Ketana means he's going to call her by name. He wouldn't call her Gedola or Ketana. He would call her by name. He would call her by her name. He wouldn't call her Gedola or Ketana. If there are 2 groups of daughters, then you could say that there's the older group, and he might even call the second of the oldest group. He might call her the older one because she's the older group. That's it. And the second group, he might call the Gedola because she's the biggest of the second group. But if there are 3 in one group, he's not going to call the middle one Gedola or Ketana because she's bigger or younger than somebody else. Or many children, 3 or 4 or 5. Over there, it's absolute. He's not going to call any one of the middle ones Gedola or Ketana because they're older or younger than somebody else. Over there, it's going to be absolute. That was Abaye's shot. That people don't talk that way.
That's his shot in our Mishnah too.
The Mishnah. I think that was going to continue. The Mishnah only talks about that there were 2 and 2.
The Mishnah says Kite.
Yeah, and each one only had 2.
Okay.
That's what the Mishnah is going to talk about. That the Mishnah had 2 groups, and each one only had 2. And the Mishnah is very mashma. It says Gedola Shebedola, Ketana Shebedola. It talks about 4 children, and he says if there'd be 3 children in a group, or only one group, and there are 3 children or more, so then it's definitely. Rabbi also agrees that it's absolute. Gedola means the oldest, Ketana means the youngest. It doesn't mean anything relative. Amalei Ravada bar Masna Matana Labaye Elamayata. Next page. Elamayata. The Gemara seems to understand that our Mishnah does have more than 2 kids in each group, and let's say there are 3 kids in the second group. That's how it seems that Rav, what was the name on the bottom over there? Rav, who has the kasha over here? Rav Masna. That's the kasha Tabaya. And the Mishnah, then of the middle one of the second group. You'd say that it's mutter. You should say mutter, because he wouldn't have called her Gedola because of the second group. There are 3. And he wouldn't call her Gedola because she's bigger than that she's bigger than somebody else. He's bigger than the youngest. And the Mishnah only says that it's mutter Ketana, only the Ketana Shebektanos. Means Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir says that older Ramasa, and the Mishnah you have 2 and 2. It doesn't say 2 and 2. Let's say the Gemara doesn't know yet that they're only 2 and 2. The Gemara says the older group and the younger group. And Rabbi Meir says they're all usher except for the youngest. Only Ketana Shebektanos. Only the youngest is only one that's mutter because anybody else can be called Gedola. And Rav Adar Masna, I think, Rav Adar Masna, he thinks that there are many children in the second group, and still he only says that the one that's only the youngest. That means that he would call the middle child the big one. even within
Are
one
we
group.
saying, let's say there are two groups and each group has three?
Yeah, let's say. Good.
Okay, so we're saying 1 through 5 would be big and only 6 is.
So that's against Abaye, because Abaye said that within one group, he's not going to call the middle one big.
Small, it's gonna be by name.
Right.
So,
So it's a kasha on Abaye.
okay.
If you assume that the Mishnah has 3 and 3,
That's just as a me'ata.
Elamayata, according to you, the middle one should be mutter, and it says in the Mishnah only the youngest one is mutter, kasha. So Abaye says it doesn't say in the Mishnah that they are 3 and 3. The Mishnah is only talking about that there are 2 kids in each group. So that's why he says that only the youngest one is mutter. The older of the second group could be called Gedola. But you're right, if there be 3, then it wouldn't have said that only the youngest is mutter. Anybody besides the oldest of the second group is going to be mutter, because he wouldn't call them Gedola. Shabai answered the question. I'm also going to prove it to you. The Imi said Ika Lasanye. If it would be another child in the group, it should have said so. Means when the Mishnah continues, first he's proving now that there are only 2 in each group, because the Mishnah doesn't talk about it. The Mishnah says
Old and young,
and it says that who's the possibilities are going to be Gedola Shebegdola, Ketana Shebegdola, Gedola Shebegtana. It says that it spells out those that are listed, those that we're talking about, and only the Ketana Shebegtanas. It says the father said, "I don't know any Odeya if I meant the oldest of the oldest, the second of the oldest, the youngest of the oldest, the oldest of the youngest, or the younger, or the youngest." That's all. Those are 3 things he doesn't know. So it doesn't talk about any middle one. Why doesn't it say so? The fact that the Abai is just saying more. He isn't just saying that the Mishnah is only talking about 4. He says if the within would be that it will be usher, the Mishnah also should have said it also. I'm proving now that I'm right. I'm not just deflecting the kasha saying, "Oh, my skin on there are only 2 and 2." I'm proving it also. Besides proving it that I'm saying that on the contrary, the fact that the Mishnah didn't talk about it is a proof that I'm right. Is a proof that it's mutter, because if it would have been us, the Mishnah would have said so.
Because it explicitly said there was a spake of 3.
Right. And why didn't it talk?
No middle one.
And right. So that's the fact that it's not talking about it. So why doesn't it talk about it? Right. The Gemara is going a little deeper. Why did the Mishnah choose not to talk about it? Because I'm right. Not just he isn't just saying that's not what it's talking about, so therefore that's a kasha on me. He's even going on the offensive now. The fact that the Mishnah doesn't talk about it must be that I'm right, that it's mutter.
That I'm right, that the middle one would be called by name.
Right, and therefore it's mutter. So the Mishnah didn't say it. If it would have been us, the Mishnah would have had to say so. The Mishnah would have had to say that it's us. If not, by default, I'm right. But the Gemara says you're a deer because not a kasha on me. According to you, that if the Mishnah doesn't say it, it's coming to say that it's mutter. And so Shabbat Rishona, the Vada is fake about Sirole Mikatanila. Abai was proving the fact that the Mishnah didn't talk about 3 girls. It's talking about 2 and 2. Why didn't it talk about a third one? Must be that it's mutter. But the Gemara is asking, why did you hold about 3 girls in the first group? What if there'd be 3 girls in the older group? Is there any question? Sure, she's also over there because
Vada is what's the Vada?
The Vada is fake. She's surely in the doubt. She surely is included in the doubt. The middle girl of the older group, Sasha Bekat Mishona, she's surely included in the suffix. Maybe he meant her. What do you hold about? Because we'll see in a second. It says even the younger one of the second group, the second one of the older group is called Gedola. Why? Because she's in the older group. So the whole older group is called big. So how come the Mishnah doesn't say so? Mikatanila. According to you, the middle one of the older group that surely is included in the suffix and is also doesn't say it. Means don't bring a proof for the fact that Mishnah didn't choose to talk about it, because in the older one you also masking that the middle one's going to be Asa, and it doesn't say it. So don't bring a proof for the fact that it doesn't talk about the middle one of the younger group to bring a proof that she must be mutter, else the Mishnah would have said it. And they Reisha, and in the case of the older group, the Mishnah doesn't talk about it, then surely it's Asa. So the Gemara answer is that's not a kasha on me. That's so that everybody can understand. What's the comparison? Hasam. Second.
Hasam in there 3.
Hasam in the first group, in the older group. Hasam in the older group. There's no reason why Tana should have to say that it's Asa. The middle one of the older group is Asa. Tana Katana Dide La Yisura. The Mishnah says that the younger one of the older group is Asa, there's no question that the one that's older than her is surely going to be Asa. The word Kshisha means older. The Tana says that the younger one, her younger sister is Asa, so surely she's going to be Asa, the one who's older. It says that Kshisha means older. They have today, they go Miskavla Kashish, or Yadla Kashish, or all these things. The Kashish means older person. So here Kshisha doesn't mean old, it just means older. So if the Mishnah says that the younger, number 2, you have 1, 2, and then 3, 4. If the Mishnah says that 2 is Asa, then surely if there'd be a middle girl over there also, if there'd be somebody in between, 1.5, whatever, 1.2, if there'd be somebody in the middle, surely she'd be Asa, because the whole older group is called Gedola because they're the older group. So if it says that the younger sister is Asa, surely the older sister is also Asa, because, so it says it already. No reason why Mishnah have to talk about it. But here means that in the case of the younger group, if it will be true that if she'd be there, she'd be Asa, the Mishnah should have said so. Because there's a Chiddush, because there is more Chiddush. And the older one, that the middle ones are Asa, there's no Chiddush over there. The whole older group is called old. But now we're talking about a new question. If you have a younger one, or one group, and a younger group that is a middle girl, does he call her the big one? So if the Mishnah held that that it would be us, they should have said that Chiddush. So therefore, I'm right. The Vice proves that he's right. That when you have one group, the derech is that he's not going to call the middle one Gedola. So surely he means the oldest of the younger group. They have the gear say the rubber, but it's a little bit easier. The side gear so that says back again about the Ramasna Abaye. He's attacking Abaye again. Rubber didn't do anything over here, so maybe it's easier Gersa that we're going against Abaye again. Pesach, the Chikat Achas Dami, Upligi. We said before, Machok Zamein Rabbi Yossi by Pesach. Someone says Ad Pnei Pesach was Machlok's case, and one says that it's the beginning. He doesn't want to get involved, and Rabbi Meir said that it's even the end, because maybe he meant the end also. And over there, that's similar to one group. It's nothing in between. So Rashi explains that the Gemara here understands. We didn't understand this way, but the Gemara here, at least the Amina, the Gemara thought, why all the days of Pesach Asa? Why all the days of Pesach Asa? Why? Rabbi Yossi says only till the beginning. Not Pnei Pesach. He's not going to eat apples till Pnei Pesach. He's only Asa till the beginning of Pesach, the front face. And Meir said that it's Asa even the whole Pesach. The Gemara thinks at this point the reason why it's Asa is because it's the front face. Not the Gemara doesn't think that it means the back face, the end face. Like I said before, the Gemara thinks that it's the front face of something which is further down the road. So the first day is called Pnei Pesach because it's before the second day. The second day is Asa because it's called the front of Pesach for the third day. The third day is called the Pnei Pesach because it's before the fourth. So the Gemara is saying, you see that even though within one cut, you still call it because it's bigger than something, it's earlier than something later. So too, even if you have one cut, you have one group of children, maybe you'll call the older one to anybody that's older than the younger one. So the Gemara seems to attack Abaya. You say that within one group, you don't do that. You just call the absolute big. You don't say relative big. And here, the Gemara thinks that the Pshat by Pesach is the reason why all the days of Pesach is us is because it's before something else. So it's so similar to middle children that you do call them before somebody else. But the Gemara says that's not what Pshat. The Pshat is the way we said before. Amalei, that's not the Pshat. If they're talking about what the term means, Ma'asavar ad Pnei Pesach means ad Kami Pesach, or Ma'asavar ad Mifni Pesach. What does the Gemara seem to say? Pnei Pesach means till before Pesach. Pnei Pesach means till Pnei Pesach, or it means until Pesach is cleaned out. Mifni, a lesson of like till it's over. So here the Gemara puts a little bit into the word Pnei can mean like Panui, that it was emptied out. You could say a little bit different. Maybe the Gemara means to say that we talk about the face. You can talk about the front face or the back face. The two panei has two panim. It has the front cover or the back cover. Both of them are called covers. The front cover or the back cover. So panei Pesach, it has two panim. And not that there's a tzad that the middle ones, there's no question about it. The middle ones are not going to be called, maybe they're the front cover of the second day, the front cover of the third day, the fourth day. That's not what it means. Surely within one group, you only call the front cover, the back cover. And by children, you'll call the oldest and the youngest. That's not a question within one group. So Abaya remains, he stood ground that when you say one group of children, you'll say Gedola, it's only the Gedola. You say Ktana, it's only the Ktana. The only thing we can talk about is if you have a bigger group and a smaller group, So then you might say that anybody in the big group is also called big.
Avrohom Pesach was the side that would be.
The beginning. Kami Pesach means before Pesach. That means Kami Pesach means before Pesach.
Before Pesach, and the other is.
So Mifni Pesach. So the way the more literally would mean that the word Mifna, I think Rashi will say over here. Let's see the Rashi. Panui. The end of Rashi right before. Shehe Pesach Panui. Ponev over till it passes away. Which right, the Gemara is putting it into the word Panei. That the word Panei doesn't only mean face, it also means Panui, like empty. Which the Chod is an easier way to explain. I'm not sure if it's into the Gemara, Mifni, but I think that's how the Mepharshim, the Mishnah explain that the word Panim, you could have two faces, you could have two sides. The front's Panim or the back Panim. But the Gemara doesn't say that exactly. The Gemara says that the word Panei might mean Mifni. But it comes out as far as Amachlokis, there's a person who put himself into Spekis, Machlokis Reb Meir and Reb Yossi, probably a person like Reb Yossi against Reb Meir, and he only speaks absolute, he doesn't put himself into Spekis. So by the Gedola, only Gedola, it doesn't even mean, and so too by Pesach, he speaks in absolute terms. It has to do with the Lashon B'nei Adam, it has to do with the nature of people. We're not making a loch out of it, we're deciding what people mean to say. If that's good, we continue the next Mishnah. Isha, maybe try to. Isha Kidashtich. He omeres lo kidashtani. Someone says to a woman, "I married you," and she says, "No, you didn't." So there seems there are no either or anything. If anybody wants the air conditioner, whatever is comfortable for everybody.
Yeah, let's do that.
So the first case is that he says I married you, and she says you didn't. So she says she's not married, so she doesn't. There's no, So who also the halacha is who also bikroba sev he also muteres bikroba. He is not allowed to marry her relative because he says that he married her. So he's not allowed to marry. Right?
We're going to believe that
and he's not allowed. He was molded that he married her, so he's not allowed to marry a sister, a mother, a daughter.
And she can marry.
He muteres bikroba. She doesn't agree. She says, I never married you. So she's not marry his brother and his father and his son because I'm not married to you. So we can't force her.
Sort of like we believe both of them?
Each one, we don't believe him to answer her.
Married,
what?
We don't believe they're married. But we do
she said, you say you're married to her, so you're not allowed to marry her relative.
Yeah.
She says she doesn't need a get. She's happy. She's like, I don't know you. And President says to the woman, you say that you're not married. So if you're saying the truth, so go ahead. We're not going to force you to do anything. Yeah. And you want to marry his brother? Fine. But to the man, we say, you say that you married her, so you may not, because according to your word, you're saying that you're also. So yeah, we have. We
believe their words, but it doesn't mean that they're married.
And that's what that means. According to what you say, we force you to act upon your words because we believe you as far as you're concerned, and we believe her as far as she's concerned.
Yeah.
You can't answer her, but you answer yourself. Next case, he omeres kidashtani, the opposite case. You married me. You married me. You married me, and he says, I did not. I did not marry you. So here's the opposite. He can marry her relatives because he says, I'm not married to you. And he is still betrothed. She may not marry his relative. She also needs a get. If she says you married me, even though he says that I didn't, but she says that you did. So she's not allowed to marry anybody until she gets a get. And if he gives her a get, she's still going to be also to marry his relatives.
So why didn't it say that?
It doesn't say it does, but it's understood that she's not going to be able to marry anybody. She might could have said it.
Because it's different than like the man.
Right, the man can have a couple of wives. Right, he can marry somebody else, even though he married her. But she cannot marry anybody else if she's married. And if she says she's married, she can't marry anybody else. She has to get a get. Even after she gets a get, she's not allowed to marry his relatives. The next case is very similar, but it brings in another factor. Kidashtif. He says, I married you. Up and I messed everything up over there. What did I just do? I'm not sure. Okay, again. Kiddushtich, but she says no. So far it's the same. But lo kiddash elabiti. He didn't marry me. He married my daughter. So it's really bringing two cases into the same. It's like not relevant the fact that. But the first part is he says I married you. She says no. But she says, but you did marry my daughter. And he says, no, I didn't. I didn't marry your daughter. I married you.
The woman says you married my daughter.
Yes. Who also betrobos gedola. So same as before. He's also to marry the relatives of the mother. That's called gedolo. Gedolo here means the mother and the daughter. He says, I married you. If that's what he says, she's not allowed to marry her relatives. But gedola muteris betrobo. So far it's the same as before. That she said you didn't marry me. So she's mutter to marry his relatives. How about the daughter? Who mutter betrobos katana. He says, I didn't marry your daughter. So he's mutter to marry the relatives of the daughter. But katana and katana muteris betrobo. The katana doesn't say anything. The Tana says, I don't know anything. She doesn't know anything. She doesn't say anything. So she's mutter to marry his relatives, even though her mother said that my daughter, you married my daughter. The daughter doesn't know anything about it. So the mother doesn't have the manas to answer her daughter. The next case, the opposite, Kidashti as bitech. So Kidashti LOC. The man says, I married your daughter. She says, no, you didn't. You married me. And the daughter doesn't seem to say anything over here. I'm not sure what, but the daughter's not talking. The man says, I married your daughter. She says, no, you didn't. You married me. So who also betrobos Ketana? He can marry the relatives of the Ketana because he says that I married her. Ketana muteris betrobo. The Ketana may marry just because he says so doesn't answer her. She didn't agree. Who muter betrobos gedola? He's allowed to marry the relatives of the mother because he says I didn't marry you. And gedola still betrobo. She cannot marry because she says you did marry me. There's a lot of double cases over here.
All the same.
Right. One clause that a person says something, it asks him, it doesn't ask anybody else. Okay, and the Gemara says, Omer Lisha Kiddushin. So as all these cases, the Gemara says he wants to know Kiddushin in all these cases. The Ashmina Gavah Didei Mishum the Gavah Lo Ichbas Lo Mikri Omer. Aval I Ema Ilav the Kim Lei B'Dibura Lo Havas Omer. And Mamei Lo Volitzer Ihu B'Krobos. There's a chiddush when somebody says kiddushtich. When I married you, so it doesn't affect her. She says no, you didn't, and we don't put any obligations, restrictions on her because of what he said. But there's a chiddush that when she says you married me, there's a chiddush that we don't put restrictions on him, because you might think that when a man says I married you, it doesn't cost him too much. It doesn't limit him too much. So maybe he's not so believed. He'll say it even if it's not true. But a woman, when she says you married me, she's really putting her foot in the mouth that she can marry anybody now. If she says you married me, she can marry anybody until she gets a get. So that's saying a big statement. You might think that it might even affect him also. We should believe her that she wouldn't have asked herself to the whole world if she wouldn't have been true. So maybe we should also ask him to marry her relatives because she must be saying the truth. You don't say that. Just see the words inside. If it would have said by him, yes, I was saying I would say because the man is not worried about it, he doesn't care. Or Mikri Omar, and he'll Mikri Omar, he'll say it by chance, so to speak. That means he doesn't care if he says it. Like I married you. Doesn't cost him too much. But she, Ema Ilav the Kim Labidibura, if she would not know for sure that she's saying correctly, no Havas Amra. She wouldn't have said so. She wouldn't have said you married me, and now she's going to be us to everybody. And Mamela will say, maybe we even should ask him to marry her relatives because she seems to be saying the truth. Kamash Malan, that we don't trust that either, and her words cannot affect him at all. The Mishnah continues.
Why would that be? It seems like such a good squirrel.
Maybe she has some ulterior. Maybe she forgot, or maybe she made a mistake, or maybe she has some ulterior motive. And in the regular terms is that an eid echad is not enough. Okay. Kiddushtich v'yomeres. This is about the daughter. That she said, you married my daughter, and also doesn't affect anybody. What's the chiddush in this case? It's true. There's a chiddush over here also. Midrabanan hemnu l'dida v'titza vrata b'dibura. You might think the same way that the Torah does believe the father. We had yesterday, the past couple of days, that a father is believed to say, my daughter married, I married off my daughter. Besides having the jurisdiction to do it, he also is believed. So you might think it's true, but the right mother doesn't have that. The Gemara knows that there's no such thing that the mother's believed about her daughter. The father's believed about the daughter. But you might think that at least with Rabbanan they would have given her some nemanas, and we should have at least asked the daughter with Rabbanan because the mother said that she got married. Kamashmalan that the mother has no nemanas at all about the daughter's marriage. There's a chiddush over there. Since you do find sometimes the parent has nemanas. So Kamashmalan only the father, not the mother. Even with Rabbanan, it doesn't affect the daughter at all.
And the mother, with Rabban, the mother can marry off the daughter if the father's not.
But it's not the din of the mother, that's the din of the daughter. We always hold the mother and the brother. It's not really the mother and the brother. They're the ones who are taking care of her, but it doesn't have any money. She can marry herself off also. It's nothing to do. It took me. I think it's true. I don't know if I ever saw the favors. So, but it always talks about the mother and the brother. We were kids. The mother and the brother. It's just because they're the ones that they're taking care of their sister or daughter. But it's not halachically. Kiddushin as bitech. Hasulam. We was finished in the last case. That he says, I married your daughter, and she says, no, you only trust the one, each person for himself, normally. I did the Tana, and there's no Chiddush over here. I did the Tana, Tana Namiya, since it just made it symmetrical, since there are all the other cases, so it finished off the fourth case, but there's no Chiddush in the last case. Okay, and the Gemara, new Gemara. Now, it said in the first case, in the second case, that she says, you married me. So Lev Yaakov pointed out, Mishnah doesn't say that she needs a get, but it's Pasha she needs a get. She can't get married without a get. But the Gemara wants to know, do you force him to give a get? What's the scenario? He says, I didn't marry you. She says, you did marry me. And now she can't get married to anybody. On her word, she can't marry anybody. She needs a get. So do we force him to give? Do we force him to give a get? Any opinions? What would you say?
I think so, yeah.
You would force him?
Right now, she's.
So why should he say? Someone comes
Yeah, but it's
over.
not-
Someone comes over to you and says, you married me.
Right.
Now I can
She
give her a
says
get.
that you're married to her. I had nothing to do with it. Why should I have to make it?
Why should I have to give a get? So Itmar.
And then they're gonna say I'm a divorcee.
Yeah, I gave a get. I can know about
Divorcee.
Itmar. Rabbi Makol and Shmuel Amar Mavakshim. Shmuel says you force him to give a get. Shmuel says you ask him to give a get. You ask nicely to give a get. Please do her a favor. She's stuck. Give her a get. So first of all, I want to know which case he's talking about. The commissioner first the case that he says, I married you. And she says you didn't marry me. So are they talking about that case? Ahe. Ilema. Ahe means
What's
which
that
case? Ahe, on which case? Al Ezer. Ilema Resha, it's the first case that he said, I married you. So lav kofanika, v'lo avakshanika. You don't have to force him, you don't have to ask him, what's the difference? He says, she says he didn't marry me. She doesn't need a get. And he says, I married you. He also doesn't need a get. He wants to marry somebody else. He can marry somebody else. He doesn't get affected at all. It's not going to help him to marry the relatives anyway. Even after get, he can marry her relatives. So there's no get over there. Okay, Allah Sefer. It's going on the Sefer where she said that you married me. So then Machok is if you force him to give a get. And the Gemara doesn't understand. Why could you force him? Shmuel's for sure right. That's all good that you ask him to give her a get to help her out. L'chayi means that's all fine. No, l'chayim, whatever. Or l'shalom, everything's good. Allah kofan amai. Why should you force him to give a get? He says I didn't marry her. She comes up with a story. I married her. She wants a get. Why should I give her a get? So the Gemara amai, Omar.
What was the reference? What was
L'chayim,
fine?
that's all fine.
What
if-
was all fine?
That you ask him to give a get. Be a nice guy. If you're not,
Oh,
be
to ask
extra.
would-
Ask nicely. Ask her to give a get. She needs a get. She's
Okay.
stuck. She can't marry you. You say they marry, believe you, fine. But she's stuck. She can marry anybody. Do her a favor, give her a get.
Uh-huh.
So that's fine. But you're gonna force him? Why should you force him?
Uh-huh.
Amar, what do these words mean? Lo nichali the itzer ikriva. Yeah, the more strong. He's gonna say, why should you force? You can't force him. He's losing out by it. I say he's losing out.
Than my sorrow.
Yeah, we're talking about why is he losing out? Because it's not nice. I don't want to get a bad name, but it's much more serious. Now, if
Now
I give a
he's
get,
asked her to
I'm going to
re-
to her sister, even though he says the whole thing's nonsense. But if you give a get, then it's not nonsense.
Right.
It's true. You might say it's really nonsense, but once you give a get, you can't marry a sister anymore. So he says, I want to marry a sister. Why should I give her a get? So that can't be. See, surely you can't force him. You can ask him if he's willing. He doesn't want a sister anyway. So give her a get, but you can't force him. Ella Shmaitza Adadi Itmas. And that must be that these Gemaras, Rav and Shmuel, Rav said before, Shmuel said you ask, is really not arguing on each other. They're both complementing each other. Shmaitza Adadi Itmas, the Gemaras, the two statements are complementing each other, and they're not talking about the same thing. Amar Shmuel Mavakshin Mimenu Nitengen. Shmuel first said, We ask him to give a get. Fine, everybody agrees. Only ask him. I'm a Rab, and not get me Atzmo Kofanosoli thinks Suba. Rab means something else. That if he didn't wait for us to ask him to give a get, he said on his own, I'll give her a get. What happened over here? She says, you married me. He says, I didn't marry you, but I'll give you a get. Before anybody jumped up. If it would have been stopped over there, no, I didn't marry you, then Bezin comes up and says, please give her a get. Okay, I'll give her a get. But if he said, I didn't marry you, and he volunteers to give a get without being asked, it looks too suspicious. Why is he offering to give a get? Nobody even asked him.
Because the coffee means that he has to marry.
Which another way it says, we think ksuba. That if he divorces her, so
Oh,
then he has to pay ksuba because you really, we consider that you are married. You gave it away. You gave it away. No, we think ksuba. But really, I think you're right. You pay ksuba because he wants to give her a get. As far as we're concerned, you married her. You proved, you gave in. You admitted that you married her, and now you want to divorce her. You have the right to divorce her, but you have to pay ksuba. Because he showed that he's really lying. Because he wouldn't have volunteered to give a get if it wasn't true.
So coffee is different than what we thought.
Right. It doesn't mean kofa to give a get. It means kofa to give suba, which is another way of saying that we know that you're lying.
That we don't believe.
We don't believe it. Itmanami, we learned also the same thing. Amar Rav take out what nami. Amar Rav Acha Barad, Amar Rav. Amar Rav Acha Barad, Amar Rav Nun, Amar Rav. Kofin Mavakshin. Here it's a little different. Before we just said Rav said Kofin. Here he himself said Kofin Mavakshin. That you force him and you ask him. Karti, that doesn't make sense. It's a self-contradictory to say you force him when you ask him. It must be Achikamar. The Mavakshin and we didn't get. The Nosan the Yatsmo, Kofin knows what he thinks. So that's what I meant. You ask him and you force him. It doesn't mean you force him and you ask him. You ask him and you force him. First you ask him if he wants to give a get. But if no, I said it wrong. Kofin or Mavakshin means sometimes you're going to force him to give ksuba, sometimes you're going to ask him to give a get. If first you ask him to give a get, if he gave a get on his own, so then you force him to give ksuba. So it's just a proof of what we said. That's the pshat. There's no machlokes going on. Everybody agrees. You only can ask him to give a get, and everybody might agree to what Rav said, that if he gave a get on his own, it's a proof that he's lying, and you do force him to give ksuba because he really did marry her. I'm going to read out new sugya. Amar Rav Yehuda ad Makadesh Beit Echad. So everybody knows, but this more is going to talk about how does everybody know. Everybody knows you have to weigh them in order to make a marriage. If you don't have to weigh them, it's not only a problem that you don't have enough proof, it just didn't take effect. It's different than other. I'm saying the maskana that everything's over. I didn't even get to it yet. I don't even know, but it seems that that's for sure. That you have to weigh them in order to make the effect. And if you didn't have to weigh them, it doesn't take effect. By other kind of deals, you make a loan or a sale, it takes effect without weighing them, but you have no proof. You might not be able to prove it, but the fact is a fact. It took effect. The sale, the transaction, but by a marriage and also by a get, there has to be aiding to make the effect. But you surely have to have two aiding to make the effect. Here talks. This is the sugya. You have to have the two aiding to make the effect. Here's the case where it said I'm a Kaddish Beit Echad. You only had Kiddushin with one aid. One aid was the witness. One witness. No, I'm saying what I think the maskana is, and everybody knows that. But the Gemara doesn't sound like that. The Gemara is going to work on it. The Gemara starts off, I'm a Kaddish Beit Echad. If somebody married a woman with one witness, ain't choshesh in the Kiddushin. You don't, there's no chash, nothing. It's garnished.
I think that's a weird way of saying it.
That's a weird way of saying it.
Why wouldn't you just say lo asa klum?
That's the same thing. Ain't choshesh in the Kiddushin is not a way of saying of lo asa klum.
Okay.
There's no worry about his Kiddushin. It's nothing. Now the Gemara is not so simple. I would have said it's nothing. Garnished. But name Rav Yehuda, but the answer of Yehuda, even after you said this statement, Shneim Modim, my. What if both the husband, the cousin and the Kala, both of them agree? Yeah, it's true. There was an aid.
There's only one aid, but we both say we're married.
We both say that there was an aid. We agree. We did the ceremony in front of one aid. No one's denying him. They both of them agree.
They both agree that there was one aid.
Yeah.
They're agreeing to the aid.
They're agreeing to the aid that we got married. The aid says they married. They did the ceremony. He gave her the ring. I read Mukadesh in front of me.
Why would that matter?
Why would that matter? Right. So that's the question. That the Gemara isn't so simple that it's a garnished. That means that maybe in Eid Echad, it's maybe it's a something. Maybe they are married, but there's no proof. You don't have enough proof. So just one aid comes and says so. That's not a proof. It means there's two issues going on. One is if it took effect, and one is if we could prove it. Even if it did take effect, maybe it's not a good proof. So there's a tzad to say that even though Yehuda said maybe in the name of Shmuel, to have a gersa that he didn't say it on his own, that Mekadosh B'Echad is not ein choshen l'kedusha. Lo asa klum means it's really nothing. Ein choshen l'kedusha means we're not worried about it. It's not. That could mean that really it might be Kiddushin if it was true, but we didn't have enough. We didn't have enough evidence that it was true.
Doesn't worry it to think that there's a Kiddushin.
Right.
If an aid testifies.
Right. Why? Because maybe because Eid Echad is only one aid. We don't know if it's true. But if both of them agree,
then that's sort of like a testimony.
well, as far as they're concerned, yeah, they're concerned. They're not concerned. They agree. They admit that that's what happened. So as far as they're concerned, like we have the whole mission. If someone says I'm married, you say you're married. So as far as you're concerned, you're married. And here, each one that agrees. So you said, according to you, there was a Kiddushin. Shnei Modim means that it doesn't make a difference really if Shnei Modim or Echad Modim.
We need more proof.
It's not a question of more proof. It's just a question.
If it's a proof, if it's an issue.
It wouldn't be more proof. So it's just Shnei Modim. That's what you're saying. But if each one, anyone, is Modim, not because you have two people being Modim, but anyone that's Modim, that's what really happened. There was really a Kiddushin. The Gemara is questioning this issue. Is it just a lack of evidence or is it a lack of effect? If it could be it's only a lack of evidence, that means that really Eid Echad is a good Kiddushin, and whoever's Modim, if the chassan is Modim, so according to him, you're married. And if the Kala is Modim, so according to her, is married. And both of them agree, they should be happily married. But to get Eid Echad does affect the Kiddushin. That's what the question was. That is how to say that it's a garnish, the way we understand that you have to wait and make an effect, and nothing took effect. So there was a question. I didn't know. In the Lav, the Rafia B'Yadei, he said yes, no, he was grappling with the question. He didn't know. Yes and no means he was like saying to study yes and no, and he wasn't sure. Not here, I got the wrong period over here. Rafia B'Yadei, it was loose in his hands. He didn't know the answer. He had the stud of Lakan, he didn't know. So it's a big question. You'd have to wait him to make that to affect the Kiddushin, or only need to wait him to prove it. But even one eighth can make an effect. Now I always thought that Eid Echad is nothing. And if you say that Eid Echad is something over here, the Gemara is not Eid Echad, then even no Eidim would be good. Then even if a man would give a woman a ring in front of nobody and they agree, also would be good. But that Rashi says is that's not true. There's no question here. You might, if you do need it, if Eid Echad does make an effect, it's only an Eid Echad. But less than Eid Echad is nothing. I forgot if Rashi is going to prove it from the Gemara. That Rashi says the Eid Echad is a something. You find sometimes he's Machayev B'Shvua. You do find some kind of koach to Eid Echad, to one witness. But nothing, surely not. I'm not sure how.
Well, I'm just asking why.
Why?
Two people just say we want to.
Oh yeah, but you also say that you say if they have two Eidim. You
no,
say
why if there are no Eidim?
because you need Eidim to make the effect. They didn't do it. They didn't do it. It's like we want to be married without a ring. You can't do that. You got without a pruta. You have to have a pruta. That's how you make a marriage. It's not just to agree to be married. You have to do something. So if you have to do something, it means you have to. It maybe you have to do it in front of Eidim. 2, 1, but nothing. No Eidim. Everyone holds is nothing. Even this Gemara that's grappling with this question is about Eid Echad. But we're going to see that 2 Eidim. I've got. We're going to see in the Gemara or just Rashi. But no, the Gemara is not talking about no Eidim. The Gemara is talking about at least 1 Eid. And that's the Gemara's question: is 1 Eid enough to make the effect? And you just need evidence. And if they agree, you say, don't need evidence. That's the Gemara's question. He wasn't sure. So Rav Nachman, the name of Shmuel, didn't have a question. He said, for sure, it's nothing. That even if both of them agree, it's nothing. This is what we would hold, that Filu Shnei Modim. Rav Yudah didn't know. Rav Nachman knew. Rav Nachman said it's nothing. And that's how we pass him, that it's nothing. Eisei Rav Nachman, the Kasha from our Mishnah. So in our Mishnah didn't say exactly. We explained the Mishnah the way we thought, but the Gemara first looks at it face value. The case the man and the woman are arguing if they got married or not. The man says I married you. She says he didn't. Who wants to be above? He's asked to marry her relatives because as far as he's concerned, they're married, then she's not. What's the case? Are there witnesses that come and say what happened? So then there's a marriage. You have Eidim that say they're married. Am with the above? How could she be mutter? 2 Eidim say they got married. Either like Eidim, if they had no Eidim at all. Why should he be also? There is no marriage. He just says I married you without Eidim. and there are no Eidim. Here's the probably where the Gemara Rashi got it from. This Gemara says if there were no Eidim, then the marriage didn't take effect. It must be that there's an Eid Echad. So, and the question was, did it take effect? And if it was true that the Eid Echad, the Eid Echad is not believed, it's not believed, but he was enough to make the effect of the Kiddushin. So then it makes sense that the husband says it's true, so you're married. She says it's not true, so you're not married. But the marriage would be effective if there would have been an Eid Echad. This is where Rashi got from, that if there are no Eidim, then everyone holds that it's nothing. I think Gemara says it must be that there's an Eid Echad, and if it was true, they'd be married. It's a proof that the Eid Echad could make a marriage. No, nothing to do with our sugya. The husband who says they got married, he says they got married with two Eidim. So where are they? They're not here now. The Gemara thought that the Eidim were here. So are there two Eidim? Are there one Eid? Are there no Eidim? The Gemara thought it's talking about there's one Eid, and it's not, can't prove it. But if it was true, then it would be a marriage. And the Gemara's matzah is not a proof. It could be that he says there were two Eidim, just they're not here. So no right to our question. No, that's why it came to our sugi, because the Gemara thought I had it right from our Mishnah, but the Ma'aseh is not a proof. Eisvei, not a kasha. Someone divorced his wife, a full divorce. He divorced her, and then they were together in a inn. They had yichud. That he remarried her. The fact that they know each other from before the divorce, they were married, and now they were secluded in a motel. That they got married again. They don't even get. They're not choshesh. They can be remarried. That they got married again, and you have to get again. So what's the case? How do they get married again? If they had two Eidim that he married her, so he married her. If they're not Eidim, so he didn't marry her. Elalav, they didn't marry her betzem. He embarrassed him, he didn't marry her. Elalav, the Eid Echad, there must be the Eid Echad case that, and therefore the what? Lav Eid Echad, then what? So there's not enough proof to say that they were married, but the choshesh that there was Beisil says that we're going to be choshesh that was a marriage. The Gemara is going out that there was a marriage. Not only seclusion means that they had relations, but there was a Kiddushin going on. According to this pshat, the Gemara thinks it's very interesting. And the Gemara thinks that has nothing to do with the Lani B'Pundaki. There's nothing to do with sleeping together. It has to do, was there an Eid Echad? And Beis Shammai is not. This is going to be the machlokus now. The Beis Shammai says that Eid Echad is nothing. This is going to be the pshat at this point. At this point, Beis Shammai is going to hold that Eid Echad is nothing. Beis Hillel is going to hold that Eid Echad is something. There's room for a machlokus. But the Gemara says that's not the pshat. If that's the pshat, aim was safer. Read on. It says more than the Gashim and the Erisin, Shane Srichem on the get Shani, if Nay Shane Libo Gospel. It says in the end of the Mishnah over there that if they only had Erisin, they never were married, they never consummated the marriage. They had Erisin only. Erisin means Kiddushin, and then they got divorced, and then they met in an inn. So then they're not comfortable enough with each other to be that they had relations. If they had been married mamish and they got divorced, it could be that they had seclusion again, they had relations. But if they never were consummated the marriage, only had Kiddushin, not Nesuim, so they were not choshesh. So that makes that has something to do with the chashash if they had relations. But according to your pshat, that the machlokas was that they had Eid Echad b'Kiddushin, it has nothing to do with the fact that they had relations or not. If Eid Echad makes a Kiddushin, the word mehem is a little bit not accurate, or maybe Eid Echad is enough to make Kiddushin. Mali min Eris and Mali min Nesuim. What does it have to do if they had Eris and Nesuim? If they got Kiddushin again, they had Kiddushin again. So that's not the pshat. The Gemara proves that that's not the pshat over there. The question over there was that they have relations. We have outside the door, we know that they had seclusion. Two Eidim come and say that the man and woman, the divorced couple, they went into seclusion. But there are no Eidim that saw that they actually had relations. Beis Shammai Savri, you turn the page. Beis Shammai Savri.
What's the difference between the yichud and the bia?
Yichud means that they had seclusion. Bia means they had relations.
Well, I thought that the yichud, you assume if it's a certain amount of time that there was bia.
You're a Beis Hillel man.
I guess I have to turn the page.
Beis Shammai says you don't say hein eid yichud hein eid bia. You don't say that after it was seclusion there was definitely a relationship. They say El Sabri, like Yaakov said, Aminan. That's the machlokas. Nothing to do with Eid Echad. That's not the pshat over here. The question was, can we say that we know that they had relations? And if they had relations, you have to add on that they would have done it for Kiddushin. They wouldn't have had relations, not for Znus, they divorced. they might as well get married again. So they decided to get married by having relations. Well, modem, and that's only if they had consummated the first marriage. But modem, but they've been and Harrison, the Lomin if they only had Kiddushin, not Nisuin, and they got divorced, then there's no reason to assume that they had relations the second time that they got together again, because they don't know, they're not so comfortable with each other. So again, it's nothing to do with the subject. So we still have Rav Nachman and Mashmur that said that you have to have two Eidim to make the affect the marriage, and if not, it's nothing. Same thing over again. Before it was Rav Nachman and Mashmur, and here's Avitza Mashmur Bamasa in the name of Rav. Amar Rabba Bar Avuna Makadosh Beit Echad Beidin Rabba Amri Ein Choshen Kiddushin. He also said there's no chash, it's nothing. But who do you say in the name of? Beidin Rabba, the great Bezdin, Bezdin Agadol. Man Beidin Rabba, Rav. What did he mean to say when he said Beidin Rabba? He meant Rav. So also Rav is being quoted that it's nothing. He could others have a different version in Rabba Bar Avuna Amar Rav. Makadosh Beit Echad the name of Rav. Here the second version says Rabba Bar Avuna said the name of Rav. That Beidin Rabba said that it's nothing. According to that version, who's Beidin Rabba? Man Beidin Rabba, Rebbe. Okay, so we have Shmuel, Rav, maybe even Rebbe. They all said that an Eidach for Kiddushin is nothing. Mostly, this case I get now, I don't understand the case at all. It's a fascinating case. It's very interesting. Whatever other words you can use for it. I don't get what the Gemara thinks from the Brisa, but it's an interesting case. Mostly, Rabbi Barami has the following question. Again, we're talking about if Eid Echad is good enough to make a Chalos Kiddushin. Shnam Shabo Medina Sayam, Vishemoin, Vachavi Lemoin. Two men, a woman, and a package. They come off the boat. They come off the boat. Two men, a woman, and a package. The one man says, "This is my wife, this is my slave, and this is my package." Everyone says Kula Shalom. The other man says, "No, it's my wife, you're my slave, and this is my package." And the woman says, "What is that?" No Edom here. No Edom. They're machich each other. No Edom. They come on their own, and they say everything's mine. And the woman says, "No, everything's mine. Both of you are my slaves, and the package is mine." So what do? So it's not a Bryce. I don't know who's saying it must be a Bryce. She has to get a get from both of them. Now I don't know why. She has to get a get from both of them. I don't know why. Why should she need a get from both of them? She says, "I'm not married. You're my slaves." Chutzpah. They come and say that I'm the wife. Both of them are slaves. They made a rebellion and they come and say that I'm the wife. And each one says I'm the wife.
Because they're two Adim saying that she's married.
Are they two Adim?
Each one says she's married.
They're Adim. They're saying married to me. I can't be a good Adim. I don't get it. I don't know.
What's the tzricha?
She has to have two gittin in order to be able to marry anybody else, because we're going to be choshesh that she's married, maybe to him. I don't get it.
She's going to collect the ketubah.
And she gets a ksuba from the chavila, from the package. She has a right to get. She says it's her package. They say it's her package, even if it's their package. But they gave a get now. They gave a get and they have to give ksuba. I don't know why they have to give ksuba for.
But the chavila is going to be the ketubah.
The chavila is a package of a lot of money. It's a treasure chest. So of the
I see from the
chavila. Now she can't get the whole chavila. She can't get the whole chavila. What?
We're saying that it's bigger than the ketubah.
Right, and she definitely has rights to the treasure chest over here as much as her ksuba. She says the whole thing is hers. We're not going to give it to her. But he says it's his. But he divorced her. She divorced. You have to give ksuba. So this chavila that's yours, you say. So give her ksuba from it. And the other one also, you say that it's your chavila, but you're divorcing her, so you have to give her ksuba. So give her ksuba from it. No, but that's interesting. One ksuba, and then they split all three. All three will split the balance. Now I don't know. The woman also gets.
No, she gets the ksuba.
But she says the whole thing is hers.
They're going to split the rest into thirds.
Right, I think so.
Okay.
So I don't get anything. I don't know why she's a get for, and I don't know why they give ksuba. They say, why should I give a get? Why give a get? They make me give a get. I have to give two also. Like they're saying, That's such a chutzpah. I have a wife and a slave. They all made a merit against me. Took the name of then you force me to divorce my wife, and then you're also going to make me fake suba. I don't get it. You want to say emunach is one thing. You want to say that we don't know the packages.
I know. I think the balance.
Yeah, the balance, but I don't get anything. So yeah, say emunach on the whole thing. But why should she get ksuba? Why should she get ksuba? Why should she get a get? Why does she need a get? Why does she need a get? Then if she gets a get, the husbands or the avadim, these two men, they should say, "What do you want to make me fake suba for? You forced me to divorce my wife."
But she wants to get a get. She wants to collect suba.
So I don't.
She's not going to get anything.
So why should they give her? Why should they give her a ksuba? They say, "I don't want to divorce you." You say, she says, "You're my slave. You're my slave." She said, they say, "What is that?" I don't get it. Nothing. I don't understand. I didn't have time to look at anybody, but I don't understand what's happening. And what does the more want? If there's something about an Eidach, what's the case? Either it's Sadi Lahai, if it's Sadi Lahai, if each one comes with Eidim, that is my wife and my package. And he also has Eidim that he Mamish, Eidim also. Not only they come, but they come off the boat with Eidim also. Can she say, now she doesn't have any Eidim. Why doesn't she have Eidim also? They have Eidim. She doesn't have any Eidim. So if she doesn't, I don't know why the case is. So if they have Eidim and she doesn't have any Eidim, so how come she say that they're my brother? This is my package. You have Eidim that say that now these two Eidim are contradicting each other also. It's 2 against 2. Still the Gemara is concerned that she wouldn't be able to say that it's mine. It must be, those story is they're coming with Eidach. Ad Khan, the Gemara is happy, and I don't know what the Gemara is happy about. But Eidach, I don't get it. I don't know what the Gemara is saying. That there's Eidach that there was a marriage.
Somebody else, not these 3 people.
Right, Eidim. One Eid comes and says it's his wife. Another Eid comes and says no, it's his wife. That's why we understand why. And she says not. She says not true. So I don't understand. The point to what we know, it's nothing. She says if you have Eidach, then I believe, and you have 2 Eidim, each one saying something else, it's also not 2 Eidim. I think is that enough to say that 2 Eidim against her?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think Gemara is not happy. Gemara is happy that she needs a get, 2 gittin, and she gets ksuba by forcing them to give a get, and she gets ksuba. I don't get it. I don't know. I don't get the Gemara. I don't understand. But the Gemara thought I had it right that Eidach makes kalos Kiddushin. But the Gemara says Pshat is all wrong. But this bro Eidach by Chashem Mehemen. You have each one has Eidach, but they're contradicting each other. He says that he married, and the other Eid says no, he married. So that's nothing. It's Eidach 1 against 1, then nothing. So that's not the Pshat. Now we're going to find what the Pshat is. Everyone agrees that she's mutter to marry somebody else without getting a get, because you don't have any Eidim. And even if Eidach by Chash is nothing. So everybody holds that she's allowed to get married without having a get. What does the Brisa mean to say? She has to have 2 Eidim, 2 Gittin in order to get the Ksuba. Means if each one will agree to give her a get, then she'll have rights to get the Ksuba from the Chavila, and that's a chiddush to get Ksuba from the Chavila. Usually, as the Gemara says, that the point is that you collect Ksuba from that Mefalfim, which is not so simple, because we paskin or make your adin. You don't get ksuba only from karka, and to say that you get ksuba from the chavila, which is not a side point over here, that wasn't the main point over here. But the Gemara is making that this is the chiddush, that it goes according to our mate that says mekaflim is mishabut to the ksuba, and therefore he has to pay. But what is the halach over here? That you have, if she gets 2 gittin, if both of them agree to give a get.
No, both of them give a get on their own.
Give a get on their own.
Each one give a get on their own. Each one is kind of ksuba.
But it's nothing to do with the Gemara before giving get on their own, because the Gemara before was first he said, I didn't marry you. But then if he said, I'll give you a get, so we say, oh, we have you. But over here, he says, you're my wife. And now I'll give you a get. He's not contradicting himself. He says that you're my wife. And she says, no, you're not. I'm not. So if he wants to divorce, but he's not contradicting himself.
So maybe if he gives a get on his own, so he's going to have to give 2.
So he doesn't want to give a get. But he says if he wants to give a get, he's giving a get. If he gives a get. Okay,
if he gives a get on his own, if they each give a get on his own.
Which, like any husband, he gives a get on his own, so he has to get ksuba, and there's no chiddush over here.
He can't take the ksuba from the other guy. He can't get the other guy's money. So therefore,
So she won't be able to get it. She won't be able to collect. Only both of them agree.
No, so since the mother shot, everybody's entitled to some of this.
money,
so then that 200 should be able to go.
because both of them are agreeing that I'll give her the money. If it's my money, I'm giving it to give her ksuba. If I say it's my money, I'm agreeing to give her ksuba on their own will. They're giving get on their own. And the chiddush is that you collect ksuba from the talton, which could have been said by regular din, that a husband divorces his wife on his own. Yeah, she collects ksuba from the talton. I don't get it. Okay, the Gemara continues. Ma'av yalla. What's the din? Is there Kiddushin with the Eid Echad? Rav Kana main choshen Kiddusha? Nothing. It's garnished. That's what we said till now. Rav, Shmuel, Rebbe, and now Rav Kana. Papa Machoshen Kiddusha, that it might be Kiddusha. Means Eid Echad might be Kiddusha. It means we don't have evidence. But if there was an Eid Echad, it is Kiddusha. So Papa's the one who's against everybody till now. But the Gemara turns to Rav Kana. Where do you get it from? Which was what the Gemara said the whole time. Where do you get it from that you have to wait? This is really the question nowadays. Who says you have to wait in order to make in order to affect the Kiddushin? Everybody knows. Without waiting, it didn't even take effect. Where do you get it from? Because you learn out. The alpha is davar mimam. Because you learn out Xer Shava, the word davar here, davar there, davar link over there. By moment it says Alpi Shnai Medim Yakum Davar, something like that. And by davar it says Matzav Erbas Davar. You have the word davar, just like by moment you have to have two edim. So too you have to wait and by Kiddushin also. But just to point out, it's altogether different. By Mominus, it's only to prove it. And by Kiddushin, we're saying it's coming to affect the Kiddushin, which is like no shaykhs at all. I think Gemara's learning out davar moment to say that you have to have Edim to make the effect of the Kiddushin. The Gemara says, if so, Imal Halin Hadas Baldin Kmedim Dami, Afkan Das Baldin Kmedim Dami. The halach is by Mominus that if somebody admits, so that's worth more than 100 Edim. So too are you going to say that they admit it makes the Kiddushin also? Means that the admittance will not only be a proof, it'll be the chalos. That's what the word seems to say. That if you're learning out from Mominus, the evidence learning out to the chalos, so say also that Hadas Baldin will also make a chalos. So both of them agree that he gave me a ring. So it'll be Kiddushin even without any Edim. Amalei Hasam Lo Kachayv Lachrini. It makes it sound like it's a technical issue that Hadas Baldin is only good when it doesn't affect anybody else. But here the Hadas Baldin is going to affect other people because if they're married, so then the relatives are going to become muscle. So it's not technically it's not a good Hadas Baldin because it affects other people. Mar Zutra, the Rav Ada Saba, B'nei, the Rav Mari. We're up to Amalei Hasam Lo Kachayv Lachrini. Over here it doesn't affect anybody detrimentally, and here it does. So therefore, it's not a good Hadas Baldin. Means inherently, Hadas Baldin will be enough to make a chalos of Kiddushin, but since people are being affected, so it doesn't take effect. Two brothers, they divided the Yerusha. There were two brothers, Rav Ada Saba and Razutra, that were the sons of Amori Barissa. They had a Yerusha, and they divided the Yerusha with each other. Everything was fine. But they had a question. Also, they came to Rabashi, Amulei, Apishnai made them Amrachmana, the brother Meheder, Lamatsi Hadri Buhu, Fana, Lo Hadri, Odil. They wanted to know if on monetary issues, you have to have Edim to make the effect. They divided the Yerusha. They wanted to know, does it get divided on our own division, or you have to have Edim? The words go like this. It says in the Torah, Apishnai made them. The Torah says, over there, it's only in order that he shouldn't be able to deny it. If they want to retract, they can't because they're Aiden that will testify. But we're not gonna. We have no problem with each other. We're not gonna retract. We just want to know if it takes effect. On the first side, they're saying it does take effect, and we have no need for proof. Maybe it only takes effect with Aiden. They had it out to say that even by financial matters, also it only takes effect if you have Aiden. Edim were only created for liars. Means that as far as monetary issues go, there's no need to have Edim for the effect of the sale, of the present, of the division. It's only that nobody should lie. But the monetary issues, they happen by themselves. If you did it, you did it. You gave a loan, you gave a sale, you made it present. But if in the case they are lies, you have to have evidence. But that's only by Mominus, but by Kiddushin, we're saying that it's not only for lies. Kiddushin is to make the chalos. So that's what the Gemara says. That this was the whole Gemara with Sugi we had today. That you have to have Edim to make the effect. There's no question if you have Eid Echad is enough. And some did say, but Papa said yes, but the Gemara doesn't seem to agree with that. And the question is where you learn it out from, and it's probably where you learn it out from. You learn it out from Mamonis. But Mamonis is not to make an effect. It's only for evidence. And that's going to be the source you learn out. And really, technically, it should even be a dos, but it should be good enough also to make the effect. But technically, it's affecting other people, so it's not good enough. Fascinating. Let's go.
12:30 is the minute in the fourth.
Today, right. And if it's possible, that show me 3 o'clock,
3 o'clock tomorrow.
even though it takes away from the.
Or you're gonna be in church.
Okay.
I was gonna be in the church anyway, but it turns out that my daughter-in-law is not.